The office was the kind of place that looked impressive from the outside and felt hollow once you were in it. Glass walls, clean desks, a lobby with a logo on it that people had paid too much money to design. The kind of building where appearances were managed carefully and explanations were rarely asked for, because asking questions was considered a sign that you did not already know the answer. Ethan Marsh had worked there for 4 years. He was not the kind of employee who made noise. He did not arrive late, did not leave early, did not send unnecessary emails or linger at the coffee machine, making conversation about things that did not matter. He came in, sat down, and worked. His title was Senior Network Security Analyst, which was a long way of saying that he was the person responsible for making sure that nothing catastrophic happened to the company's digital infrastructure. He was good at it, quietly, consistently, without fanfare. He was very good at it. Most people in the building did not fully understand what he did. That was fine with Ethan. Understanding was not required. Results were, and results were something he had always delivered. On a Thursday morning in early November, Ethan Marsh fell asleep at his desk. His head dropped forward slowly, then came to rest against his folded arms. His monitor glowed softly in front of him. His coffee sat untouched and cold beside his keyboard. His breathing was deep and even, the breathing of a man who had gone somewhere far from the surface, who had descended into sleep the way a stone descends. Through still water, he did not hear the footsteps. He did not hear the door. He did not hear the room go quiet around him as the people in it noticed, one by one. What was happening? The first person to say something was a junior coordinator named Paige, who had come to deliver a printed report and stood holding it with both hands, unsure what to do. Then someone else arrived. Then 3 more people followed, the way people tend to gather around something unexpected, drawn by a quiet gravity they cannot quite explain. And then Victoria Slade walked in. She was the CEO of Slade Meridian, the company that had built the glass building and paid for the lobby logo. She was a precise woman, efficient in her movements, with a way of assessing a room in seconds that had served her well in boardrooms and negotiations and difficult conversations. She wore a dark blazer and carried herself with the particular posture of someone who had not gotten where she was by tolerating things that looked like carelessness. She looked at Ethan Marsh, asleep at his desk in the middle of a Thursday morning, and her expression moved through surprise and into something cooler and more resolved. She turned to Warren, her head of operations, who was standing slightly behind her. Get HR, she said. I want him out by noon. Warren nodded. Nobody in the room said anything. Nobody explained, because nobody in that room knew what Ethan Marsh had spent the last 48 hours doing. It had begun on Tuesday evening. Just after 7 o'clock, Ethan had been about to shut down his workstation and go home, when a single alert appeared on his secondary monitor. It was small, easy to miss, the kind of thing that automated systems flagged dozens of times a week, most of them false positives, most of them resolved in minutes. But something about this one was different. He sat back down. He traced the alert to a packet of unusual traffic originating from an external IP address that had been masked behind 3 separate proxy layers. Someone was probing the company's network perimeter, not loudly, not aggressively, but with the careful, patient precision of a person who knew exactly what they were doing and had no intention of being noticed. Ethan recognized the technique. He had read about it in a threat intelligence report 8 months earlier and had flagged it internally as a pattern to watch for. Nobody had responded to that flag. That was fine. He had watched for it himself. He called no one. There was no one to call at 7 in the evening who would have understood quickly enough to matter. Instead, he opened his toolkit and went to work. What followed was not a dramatic confrontation of flashing screens and racing countdowns, the kind of thing that gets portrayed in films. It was slow, methodical, and deeply technical. It was the work of a man who understood the architecture of the company's systems better than anyone else alive, who had built portions of it himself, who knew where every door was and which ones had weak locks. The attackers were sophisticated. They adapted when he pushed back. They rerouted when he closed a path. They were patient. and they clearly had time and resources and a specific target in mind. So did Ethan. He worked through Tuesday night. He ordered food at midnight and ate it without tasting it. He drank coffee until the coffee stopped working and then drank water. He worked through Wednesday morning and Wednesday afternoon and Wednesday evening, pausing only to use the restroom, to stretch briefly in the hallway, to keep himself functional enough to continue. Asterisk at one point, late Wednesday night, the attackers found a vulnerability in a legacy authentication module that Ethan had flagged for replacement 6 months ago. They were 30 seconds from using it to establish a foothold inside the company's financial data servers. Ethan closed the vulnerability in 22 seconds. By Thursday morning, just before 5 o'clock, the attack had been fully neutralized. Every intrusion attempt had been logged. Every pathway the attackers had used had been documented. The company's data, its client records, its financial systems, its proprietary contracts, all of it was intact. Nothing had been taken. Nothing had been compromised. Asterisk Ethan filed a complete incident report. He flagged the documentation for Warren and for the IT director and for the legal team. He sent the report at 5:14 in the morning. Asterisk. Then he put his head down on his desk and he slept. Warren read the incident report at 11:40-7. Asterisk, he read it once, quickly. Then he read it again, more slowly. Then he sat very still for a moment, looking at the numbers in the damage assessment section, the section that described what a successful attack of this kind would have cost the company in regulatory penalties, in client losses, in reputational damage. The number was not small. The number was the kind that ended companies. Asterisk, he walked to Victoria Slade's office and knocked twice. Asterisk. She looked up from her desk. "We have a situation," he said. She listened without interrupting. That was one of her genuine qualities. When information mattered, she listened completely. Asterisk, when Warren finished speaking, the office was quiet for a long moment. Asterisk, how long was he in the building? She asked. Asterisk, we pulled the badge records, Warren said. He came in Tuesday at 7:10 in the morning. He never left. Asterisk, Victoria was still for another moment. Then she stood up, straightened her blazer, and walked out of her office and down the hall toward the open workspace where Ethan Marsh was now sitting upright, awake, holding his cold coffee and staring at his monitors, with the calm expression of a man who had slept 3 hours and intended to get back to work. Asterisk, she stopped beside his desk. He looked up. She did not give a speech. She was not the kind of person who gave speeches when a few words would serve better. Asterisk, I owe you an apology, she said, and the company owes you a great deal more than that. Asterisk, Ethan looked at her for a moment. There was no bitterness in his expression, no performance of wounded pride. He had not done what he did in order to be seen. He had done it because it needed doing, and he was the one who knew how. Asterisk, there's a legacy authentication module that still needs replacing, he said. I flagged it 6 months ago. Victoria held his gaze. Consider it approved, she said. Asterisk, he nodded once, turned back to his screen, and got back to work. Asterisk, outside. The city moved through its ordinary Thursday, unaware of what had almost happened, and unaware of the quiet man behind the glass wall who had made sure it did not.